The Rolling Stones released a record in 2023 that you'll want to listen to multiple times. The last time the Rolling Stones gave us a new album was under George W. Bush's administration, excluding their 2016 Blues Covers album. That album, 2006's A Bigger Bang, was fiery but not particularly memorable, and in the nearly 2 decades that have passed, perhaps even the Stones have begun to question whether or not we really need another Stones record. They must have understood they'd need to make it worthwhile for everyone if they were going to drag themselves, and us, through the procedure once more and after such a long break. Surprise, they have. Hackney Diamonds, released October 20th, isn't just another new Stones album, it's the first Stones album in a very long time that you'll want to spin more than once before filing away. It's a compilation of bangers from the old-school division that no one in their right mind had a right to expect in 2023. The Stones haven't sounded this snappy and concentrated in what feels like a half-century, whether it's thanks to first-time producer Andrew Watt, technical marvels, or just a desire to remind us why we cared about them in the first place. The majority of the sloppy strumming from the past is gone from the guitars played by Keith Richards and Ron Wood, which are clean and uncluttered. Mick Jagger can seem snappish, irritated, needy, or insolent depending on the song, and his lyrics and stronger British accent reflect this. It hasn't rained in a month. The rivers run dry / we haven't made love, and I wanna know why, he spits in the sputtering single Angry. True, it's not quite rock poetry, but since the heyday of the cassette, he hasn't sounded this invested in the songs. Although Jagger wails as if he wants the entire world to hear him, Depending on You could have been one of those plodding ballads that appeared on later Stones albums. A fountain of musical youth appears miraculously when all of those components are together. Jagger snarls as the guitars tear it up around him toward the end of Live by the Sword, one of the 2 songs they recorded with drummer Charlie Watts before his passing in 2021. At that point, you'd scarcely believe it was the 21st century. Songs that would have been monotonous now feel fresh thanks to what subtle refinement of their sound. In his song Mess It Up, Mick Jagger fumbles his way through an attempt to connect with anyone under 30 who hasn't heard of the Rolling Stones. You share my photos with all your friends / you put them out there, it don't make no sense, he grumbles. He then rants about his lover taking his codes. If you don't have access to a nuclear arsenal and you're not informing us, dude, we think the phrase is passwords. The tune, which has a slick dance music drive to it, is elevated by the mix of Watt's rhythmic swing and his swooping delivery. It also serves as an example of the more fluid way that some of these songs, then on albums like Bridges to Babylon, mix Jagger's popism with Richards' rockism. The majority of the record is played by long-standing ex-Pensive Winos member Steve Jordan, who has replaced Watts on tour. Although Jordan strikes his kit more forcefully than Watts ever did, his contributions aren't as startling as they could be. The most ambitious song on the album, Sweet Sounds of Heaven, throws everything against the wall, a honky-tonk gospel arrangement that builds over time, Jagger's reflections on people going hungry and quenching his own material thirst, Stevie Wonder's rolling piano, and Lady Gaga whooping it up for extra fervor. Richards even gets out of bed. His obligatory solo track on every Stones album has felt progressively meager since the Before They Make Me Run highlight from Some Girls. However, Tell Me Straight, which is built on an ominous, skeleton riff that wouldn't have been out of place on a 90s grunge record, is as taut as the rest of the album, and he too sounds committed in every syllable, avoiding the sluggish delivery of the past. There isn't much of the late-life introspection heard on recent songs by some of the Stones' contemporaries on this album. We've reached a fascinating point in rock history when seasoned boomer rockers are still actively writing songs that are both new to them and to the general public, rather than merely dragging themselves on stage. We get to hear the thoughts of Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, or Judy Collins as they approach or enter their 80s in songs that confront mortality, reflect on turbulent lives or recent history, and occasionally rant about the state of the planet or politics. This is a first for that generation. On Hackney Diamonds, Jagger enjoys a few of his own reflective moments. In the song Whole Wide World, which fuses zigzagging guitar riffs with lyrics intended to lift us up during difficult times, he sings, "The streets I used to walk on are full with broken glass / and everywhere I'm looking, there's recollections of the past. In the country shuffle, Dreamy Skies, the singer yearns for an antique AM radio and a Hank Williams album as he attempts to escape from it all. As deep as it gets, their expressions are. Songs with choruses like I Wanna Get Close to You or You'll Think I'll Mess It Up for You continue to be Jagger's favorites. Don't you want to know what's going on in Mick Jagger's head? It seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. As opposed to this, he rages and Bite Your Head Off, which feels like a grumpier older guy's update of Get Off My Cloud. You believe I'm your bitch, but I'm messing with your brain. I ain't on a leash / well, I ain't on a chain if you want to get rich, better sit on the board. From Live by the Sword, he sings more naturally. However, Bite Your Head Off turns out to be a fun musical spitball thanks to Paul McCartney's comparatively understated bass contribution, and the Richards and Would Rave Up at the climax is the best kind of auditory roller coaster ride. The album's final track, Rolling Stone Blues by Jagger and Richards performing Muddy Waters' Rollin' Stone by themselves, has a definite and real sense of coming full circle. They could, however, be correct. Whether this is their final album or not, perhaps songs like Bite Your Head Off will be how we remember them and rock in general. However, Bite Your Head Off turns out to be a fun musical spitball thanks to Paul McCartney's comparatively understated bass contribution, and the Richards and Would Rave Up at the climax is the best kind of auditory roller coaster ride. The album's final track, Rolling Stone Blues by Jagger and Richards performing Muddy Waters' Rollin' Stone by themselves, has a definite and real sense of coming full circle. They could, however, be correct. Whether this is their final album or not, perhaps songs like Bite Your Head Off will be how we remember them and rock in general.